Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art and Recap. I'm your artist Faye, and today we are reading chapter 187 till 191 of Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 192, Attention. Okay, so Audrey is like so excited right now because from what her father told her, Chilankos is dead, and she's like, ain't no way. Is it possible that our tarot club actually was the one to take down the Chilankos, the guy, the infamous pirate admiral thing, whatever? And she's like, ain't no way, right? And she was like jumping through hoops in her head of how it could be possible that perhaps Klein's Blessed was the one who took down the pirate. And she's like just super excited about it all, and she's like, oh my god, this means that the hanged man really owe me one. Like I am definitely getting that rainbow salamander, and I am so excited to finally level up, basically, is in her mind. So she is looking super excited and super happy about everything that's happened so far. And her father looks at her and was like, girl, I know that you really are interested in mysticism, and I tolerate that interest of yours because it's a cute little hobby of you. But might I remind you that everything with Beyonder is very dangerous. This organization, the secrets, it's just super dangerous. So I want you to stay safe and not ask too much about what happened with Chilankos, okay? And she's like, well, yes, I understand. I was just very curious, Dad. And her father's like, curiosity won't do either, young lady. And she's like, okay, I understand. And she's like, well, it's not like I can do anything anymore here. I am already a Beyonder, father. It can't be helped. I'm already involved. After all, it is her fault that Chilankos was apprehended in the end, right? Well, killed. Not apprehended. It wasn't even apprehended. He was killed, murdered. Um, so then, Earl Hall was like, you are the heroine tonight. You saved everyone, and especially Duke Negan, and he wants to reward you. And also, you are getting the bounty that was on Chilanko's head. And it's not just the bounty from their country, but also from all the other countries that put a bounty in his head, and also the merchants and whatever that Chilankos was like terrorizing the whole goddamn time. So, in the end, sis over here got herself 40,000 pounds worth of reward just from, telling people that, hey, I think that guy might be Chilankos, right? And I was like, damn, girl, you're rich already, and now you're even richer. Congrats. Klein, oh my god, Klein will be so... I feel like he'll be low-key a little bit upset about all this fact if he finds out how much money was actually on Chilanko's head. Like, I'm pretty sure if he knew about that, he himself would try and figure out a way to get to Backland himself and get Chilankos if possible. He'll try something in his mind, like do some manipulation here and there and stuff like that. That's what I'm feeling anyway. Anyway, Audrey realized something very important, and that is, if she puts her name out there, if the news somehow broke out that she was the one responsible for Chilanko's death, technically for realizing that he was impersonating the Baron Gramir, it would be obvious to the Tarot Club member that she is Miss Justice. And she's like, shit, I need to make sure that I stay anonymous because she's part of a mysterious organization. And the fun in being in a mysterious organization is the secrecy, the anonymity. And yeah, and she's like, I have to make sure that I stay anonymous. So she's like, Father, I am so worried about my safety if it goes out to the world that I am the one responsible for Chilanko's death. Because what if his lackeys and whoever hired him to assassinate Duke Negan goes after me instead for revenge and stuff like that? And her father's like, you make a good point. We are going to hire a bodyguard for you. But she looks at him like, but Dad, I still don't feel safe about this. So he's like, okay, we are going to keep you anonymous, which is, a really smart point, So we are going to say it was just some random dude who killed Chilankos. And when the news goes out and, Klein actually find out on the news, the newspaper boy is like, extra, extra, Chilankos is dead. And he was like, oh shit, let me get that. So he reads it on the newspaper that Chilankos dead in the hands of some dude, like the bodyguard of Duke Negan shot Chilankos is basically what it says on the news. And he's like, okay, so I get the news from the news instead that Chilankos is dead instead of from my subordinates with quotation marks here from Mr. Azik or the Tarot Club members. It's like, what kind of boss am I that I find out about this big news from the news? So yeah, that is pretty much it for chapter 192. Also, before I forget, I almost forgot actually. There was this one section with Mr. Azik and how he has the glove, the eating hunger, the glove that helps Chilankos become someone else, transform him, and helps him impersonate people. He has the glove now, and he realized something. He realized that he has a connection with this glove. And I am wondering, what kind of connection is that? Because the creeping hunger is very, very aggressive. It needs blood sacrifice, basically, right? So I'm thinking, is it because he is related to death? Or maybe it's because in one of his life, he was a beyonder. And when he died, with quotation mark here, the loot that he dropped was actually the creeping hunger. Is that possible? But then that implies that Mr. Azik's body doesn't, rot or turn into beyond. Wait, would that make sense? I feel like it doesn't necessarily, unless of course whenever Mr. Azik quote here dies, he doesn't really die. He just, his memory just gets wiped out, but he's still in his original body. So then that would mean that the creeping hunger is not his loot drop, but maybe it's one of his children. Chapter 193 coming to a close. Okay, so we are actually following Klein on his way to work, and again, he grabbed the newspaper and was just basically reading what happened to Chilankos, right? And this is actually how he found out from listening to others in the carriage with him that the amount of bounty on Chilankos' head is 10,000 pounds. And he's like, fuck, really? 10,000? God damn. And he was thinking, but then I can't really get it myself, because if I did, it would ruin my godly image. So, this fucking sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. Yeah, and then we move on to Force and Shiodoresha's POV. They are actually on their way to the bank, and they're just chatting about Force basically living off of the royalties that her book was sending her. Meanwhile, Sio is kind of broke, and when Sio found out about that, she's like, basically, wait, so you've just been accompanying me all this time? Like, all the danger that we've been facing, it's all just fun and games for you, basically? And Force, here, wait, it says here on the text, Force stroked her hair and laughed. And I was like, girl, whose hair did you stroke? Did you stroke your own hair? Or did you stroke Sio's hair? And I was like, girl, what is this lesbianism? Tell me! They really have some lesbian connections going on over here, and I am living for it. It's very cute. I like it. So okay, so they talk about that, and while on their way to the bank, they hear the newspaper boys screaming, extra, extra, Chilankos is dead. And you're like, wait a second. And Chio instantly bought one, and they were reading it together, and it's like, oh my god, this means that we actually don't have to continue being in hiding anymore, right? And they also found out that the person who killed Chilankos is actually Duke Negan's bodyguard, but CEO is like believing it wholeheartedly, but Force is like, "Oh, girl, you sweet summer child, you can't just be reading the news and believe everything that it says over there. You know, she is more. I would say she. I wouldn't. I guess Force is a little bit more grounded. She's more of a realist, and I feel like CEO is more of an what's that word that's the opposite of realist, like idealist. I guess is that the word? I think that is. I think that is. I was going to say opportunistic, but then I'm like, that's not the right word, Faye. Opportunistic is not the right word of what you're thinking. uh so I was like, okay, wait, what is that word? Tell me in the comment section if what I'm trying to say makes sense. Anyway, they are actually talking about all of that, and they're like, oh my god, wait, does this mean, do we still actually get the reward from Miss Audrey? Because we didn't really do much, basically. But then Forrest is like, yeah, sure, of course, Miss Audrey is very generous. She's definitely going to give us at least half of the reward that she promised us, if not all, because again, the mission that they had is basically to just, have information about Shilankos. It didn't say that they were supposed to kill him, right? Just find out about him, his whereabouts, and stuff like that, and his mannerisms, and yada yada yada. And that's basically what they did. They accomplished basically before they went into hiding. So I feel like Audrey will definitely give them more instead of less, because again, Audrey is very generous, and yeah, I think that she will give them a lot of money, and they will be very surprised about all of this. And now back to Klein is actually reporting to Captain Dunes that he finished going through all of the people that are connected with Lanevus, so he's free now basically, and that the investigation really had nothing basically, so no new news over here. And then Roseanne what is that? Roseanne knocks on the door and was like, Captain, there is someone with a mission for you guys here. So the two of them actually goes to the room that has the missionary the people that will give them the mission, which is like two ladies. And they're like, we have a mission for you guys. We want you to monitor and track Madame Sharon and find evidence of her crimes. And Klein is like, wait, Madame Sharon, who is Madame? Oh, and then he realized, ding, 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 it's the lady whose porn he accidentally watched. So it's like, damn, okay. To think that people still think that she's involved with the murder of that politician, I guess that makes sense. And he looks at the lady that is over there, and he realizes, hey, that's actually the wife of the politician. Chapter 194, Infiltration. Okay, so it turns out that the two ladies that are there to give them the mission to tail Madame Sharon is actually the sister of the politician and his wife. So the lady is like, she's a bitch, like it says here on the text, but the bitch is like with a star. It's not really written out, but she literally called Madame Sharon a bitch, like the little sister called her that. So she's like, I need you guys to find out all the dirt about this lady, okay? And you have 2 weeks for this. And Captain Moon is like, well, Madame Sharon, what she did, sleeping with another woman's husband, isn't necessarily a crime. So also, she's very influential in Tingen. If it came out to light that we were following her and tracking her every move, we would get in a lot of trouble. And the wife, Mrs. Maynard, was like, don't worry about it. We will compensate you if that ever happens. Okay, we just need you to track this bitch for 2 weeks, and then we'll be happy. Because we know that she did something nefarious to her husband. And Captain Din's like, well, how do you guys know that we can be successful in this mission? And it turns out that there's this guy, a tobacco merchant called Vicroy, that hired them and was like, yeah, that guy basically told us about you guys. And Captain is like, Vicroy? And Klein was also like, who the fuck is Vicroy? Klein, he actually looks over to Captain Dunes and is like, Captain, do you remember him? But then he's like, of course Captain wouldn't remember him. He's Captain Dunes. and and then the lady, she elaborated, Vicroy is the one whose child, the kidnapped child you guys found. Ring any bells? And Klein's like, oh right, that guy, he's the reason why we found the Antigona's notebook. Okay, I remember now. So anyway, they accept the mission, and apparently they are going to be paying them a lot. Like, if they don't find anything about her, they will pay £50. But if they do found, they will add an additional £200. And clients like, holy crap, that is a lot of money. The rich people here, man. And Dune's like, that is not a problem, we will accept this. And then once the ladies are gone, he turns over to Klein. Is like, Klein, you are responsible for this mission. And Klein's like, wait, me? And Captain tells him, well, you wanted to learn how to tail and track people, right? And Klein's like, well, yes, actually I do wanted to learn how to tail and monitor people, not track, monitor. And Captain's like, well, this is the perfect opportunity for you. And Klein's like, oh, okay then. And Captain then tells him, so if you are down to it, go to Freya and Leonard and ask them for help. And Klein's like, wait, Leonard? Like Freya and Leonard? Like Freya is, he's a little bit gloomy. He's a gloomy guy. I don't know if, he'll be any good at monitoring and tailing people. Because again, yeah. But Leonard, the bard guy, he really did not trust that Leonard would be able to tail people or monitor them because of how, how flamboyant Leonard is. But then when I was reading that, I was thinking, Leonard was actually tracking your every move at the beginning of the Donghua. So it was kind of funny for Klein to be thinking all of this. And also he was thinking that Leonard would definitely be seducing Madame Sharon instead of, monitoring her and recording her daily routine. And I was like, Klein, what the fuck is that thought? First and foremost, I feel like you're really underestimating Leonard. And secondly, is he gay in your mind or is he not? So anyway, we actually don't get any scene of Leonard and Klein or Freya together chatting about that. They just skip that. It just states that Leonard gave him guidance on what to do, and what to do is basically hire people to do the work for you. Because he's like, hey, if you don't want to, I don't know, go home, sleep, or eat, then you do you. But the best thing would be to actually hire people for the first couple of weeks just to, figure out the madame's schedule and her routine, so that it's easier for you later on. And then once you got the information about that, that's when you actually start tailing and monitoring her. So Klein is like, okay, that makes sense. So he went over to the where was that? Someplace, I think it was the Hound Pub. Yeah, he went to the Hound Pub and found one of the mob bosses over there and hired basically one of their underlings to do the dirty work for him. And yeah, and then once he received the report, which was apparently a headache-inducing read because the mobs aren't very literate, so the report was very hard for him to read. He then started to monitor the madam himself. While Madame Sharon was out partying, Klein actually went on to sneak into her house, basically. And once he entered her room, he realized something. the perfume that she put on her walls or on her room, the smell of it is an aphrodisiac, and his body was reacting to it. And I was like, damn, okay. But also, he actually was able to calm himself down with cogitation and was like, damn, why is she using aphrodisiac as perfume? Chapter 195, Lockpicking Expert Klein. Okay, so Klein is finally in his room. No, I mean in Lady Sharon's room, right? Madame Sharon. And the thing is, when I was reading this, I was thinking to myself, damn, Sharon sounds like she's a mess, like a whole ass mess. Even though she has maids around to, like, help her out, she actually, just throw her clothes and stockings and whatever on a rocking chair, and her makeup and jewelry is like all over her vanity. And I was like, damn, girl, you are messy as fuck. But, I can't really judge because I am also the same. I have a chair specifically sitting around with like some some clothes hanging on it. So I feel like that's a universal thing, and I appreciate Cuttlefish adding that info, tiny info over there. It gives Sharon a little bit more of a human touch to her, let's just say that. So Klein looks around and he finds this painting of Lady Sharon in the nude, basically. You know, naked artworks usually doesn't necessarily mean it's not safe for work. There is artistic nudity. I do enjoy drawing naked people too, in a not safe for work kind of way. Again, artistic nudity, kind of like, how the Greek statues are naked and this and that. The human body is just beautiful to draw, okay? Also, I went to figure drawing classes a lot when I was younger. Let me tell you, the models there, they are stark naked. They absolutely give zero fucks. So yeah, so maybe it's in an artist's point of view, like I am viewing this as an artist, because I remember when I was young, we were supposed to be drawing things that we saw, right? I decided to draw the statue of a bull, and while I was drawing that, I was actually also adding his balls, right? Because the balls were there. It was part of the statue. I can see it with my eyes. It's part of the anatomy. And one of my classmates looks over my shoulder, looks at what I'm drawing, and was like, Faye, do you know what you're drawing? And I was like, yeah. I was just like, yeah, but why are you drawing that? Because I was like, well, I see it in front of me. Like, what do you want me to do? Castrate the bull? No, anyway. That was off topic. Anyway, Klein saw this artwork of Sharon in the nude, and he was thinking like, you know what? I ain't even gonna be turned on by this, because I already saw the real thing getting down and dirty with that politician, right? So this not safe for work artwork, not doing anything to me. But he did mention that it looks like Sharon was the one painting it herself, and because there's like a mirror right across from it. So he's thinking it's like Sharon was the one painting it herself, and he's like, oh, she's very narcissistic to be painting that. And I was thinking to myself, god damn, if Sharon was painting this in like a certain pose where she's like laying down and doing like, draw me like one of your French girls, and she's doing it herself, that is fucking talent. Because do you guys know how hard it is to draw a self-portrait of yourself? And especially if you're like posing like with brush, like traditionally, like with brush paint and all that good stuff, like that is hard. I tried doing a self-portrait of myself once with pencil before, and no, I couldn't do it because it felt like my perspective was always shifting, because I was holding the mirror over there, and whenever I look up and down and up and down again to look at the paper and then my face in the mirror, I feel like I miss a lot of information in that portrait. But I think it's like an artist mindset, I guess, to have it's kind of difficult for us to be drawing portraits of ourselves. At least that's what my art teacher told us. Klein puts on a black glove and starts rummaging around Madame Sharon's room because that's basically what Leonard and Freya taught him, right? So he's looking around and putting stuff back where they were, and he's like, oh, it's so good to be a seer because then I can just, remember, like he has great memory, remember where I put everything, and if I don't remember, I forgot for some reason, then I can just, look deep into my spirituality and figure it out, basically. So he was doing that, and when he realized, hey, there's nothing suspicious going on here, there's nothing of note, let me check with my divination powers first, though. So he used his pendulum to see if there's like a hidden compartment or room or partition in the in in this room. Why did I struggle to say that? So he was like, is there something hidden here? And his divination said, no, there is nothing. So he's like, okay, let's move on to different rooms. So he went to the greenhouse and other parts of the house, and he didn't find anything of value. He went to the study, the living room, nothing. And you know what? When I was reading that, I was thinking, where the fuck are Miss Sharon's servants? Like, what happened? Did she bring every single fucking one of them with her to the ball? Like, what's going on here? Shouldn't she have like some sort of cook or a butler, a headmaid, whatever, looking after her house? Even the gardener? Like, what? How did Klein get through everything so easily there? Because I feel like he doesn't seem like the sneaky type, At least not right now. He can be sneaky if he's using his spiritual powers, but yeah. Okay, so after going through the other rooms, Klein actually went back to Madame Sharon's room because there was actually a safe over there that I forgot to mention earlier. But yes, there was a safe, and he's going to start lockpicking the safe. And by lockpicking, I mean he's going to summon himself and become a spirit, basically, and just, push through the wall and look what's inside the safe. Basically, I mean, it works. If it works, it works, right? So he does just that, and once he was in the gray fog area, he's like, you know what, since I'm here already, how about I do some sort of divination, right? Why not? So he was thinking, what should I actually divine? Because he was like debating, if I actually divine if Miss Sharon is evil, it's hard to narrow down because she is a socialite. There's a lot of things that could have happened that could have her considered evil and stuff like that, yada yada yada. So he was narrowing down the question that he wanted to ask the divination, his pendulum, basically. So he's like, how about I ask if John Maynard's death was due to supernatural influences? And he got a positive answer, and it's like, wait a second, what the fuck? I did this kind of divination back in the days with like when he was, helping out the police, and it gave him a negative answer. So the fact that he has a positive answer now can only mean that there was interference. And he's like, shit, what the hell happened here? So he was thinking, wait, could it be that Madame Sharon is actually a beyonder, like a really powerful beyonder to be able to interfere with his divination? Or maybe there is someone backing her that's a really powerful beyonder, and they killed the politician because they don't want him to, win the election, whatever, yada yada yada. And Klein's like, wait, let me confirm this. And then he divined if Madame Sharon is a beyonder, and he got a positive answer. So damn, he's like, shit, she's a beyonder. So that means it's possible that the safe has several traps right now. So when he actually went back to the real world as a spirit, he pushed his hand through first just to see, test out, instead of, poking his whole head in like an ostrich. And was like, okay, so nothing happened, I still have my hand. So he looks inside and actually sees, a lot of things. Basically, there's like a photograph over there of a young man and like a gold jewelry, whatever, and also some paper, like probably some deeds to some lands. And he focused on the picture of a suave young man, and he's like, is this Madame Sharon's past lover, and he was writing fan fiction in his head about this, and it's like, oh, Madame Sharon has no choice but to marry the old baron, and that's why she became such a hoe. And then because the man in the picture was her first love and her only true love, and because of all this happened, whatever. And he's like, you know what, I should really stop writing fan fiction about Madame Sharon in my head. And then he looked closely at the young man and was like, this young man looks so much like Madame Sharon. Could he be Madame Sharon's brother? But wait, she's a Beyonder. Wait. Could she be from the Demoness pathway, the same as Tracy? Could she be originally a man, this young man in particular, and she became a woman? And he's like, fuck, then that porno is kind of super weird now. He's like thinking that. So I was like, oh, Klein, that is such a weird thought, I know, but just view her as a femboy, I guess. So also I was thinking to myself, damn, Klein, you sure like to jump to conclusions, because I know she's a Beyonder, right? We all know, and it's been confirmed to Klein himself too, that Madame Sharon is a Beyonder. But still, to jump from her being associated to the Demoness sect, and that guy possibly being, herself, is kind of a huge freaking leap. Because if I were a normal human being in this world and I was in Klein's place, I would be thinking to myself, wow, is that her twin? First and foremost, right? Is that her twin? And secondly, a lot of the time, there are siblings that look so much like each other. It's kind of creepy, because I remember I have a classmate. She looks so much like her younger sister that if I didn't know that her younger sister is actually a classmate of my sister and they're friends, I would have thought, hey, what? Do you have a twin? Something like that. So I don't know, Klein, you really like to jump to conclusions. But again, the conclusion you jump to is correct. So whatever, right? Anyway, after looking around the safe some more, he actually found an area that has some really suspicious stuff going on over there. There's some herbs, fragrances, ointments, and stuff like that. And we all know how those stuff can be used for Beyonder magic shenanigans things, right? Rituals and stuff. And in the middle of that area was actually a skeleton statue of a beautiful girl with really long hair, and the hair is really venomous looking. It's like snake looking. It's giving Medusa vibes, basically. And I think we've actually seen it in the donghua, right? And it's basically kind of like the same description as this one here, except that instead of snakes, at the tip of every strand of the hair was actually an eye, with some of them closed and others opened. And I was thinking, how would you be able to illustrate a closed eye that ends from a strand of hair? I don't know. It's kind of hard to imagine for me. It's kind of like maybe just a closed tube, kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it looks more like a snake. What do you guys mean? What do you guys think? Chapter 196, Spirit Medium Mirror. Ooh, that sounds like a tongue twister. Spirit Medium Mirror. Say that aloud 3 times really fast. Well, maybe not 3 times. Maybe 5 times. Or 7 times, just like how Klein does. Anyway, so Klein was like, damn, this statue is giving me the fucking creeps. Is it possible that this is actually the primordial demoness? But if that is the case, then that would mean that I'm right, that Madame Sharon is actually part of the demoness sect and she used to be a he. So he was thinking about that, and then he realized that there is a carriage that is driving towards the front gate already, and it's like, shit, Madame Sharon is back. And he's like, fuck, I can't face her on my own. I can't 1v1 her. She's much more powerful Beyonder than me. So yeah, also he's never really fought before, right? So he's like, okay, this is going to be stupid, but I cannot use Mr. Isaac's whistle either, because I don't know if that huge ass skeleton can actually fight, or if it's just there to be scary and can only send letters. So he's like, I'm not taking chances. I'm gonna go back to the Nighthawks and report to Captain Dunes, which is what he did next. But before we get to that, we actually have a POV of Madame Sharon, like a really short one. And Madame Sharon, she dismissed her maidservants, and maidservants here is written with an S at the end, so it's in plural, meaning that she does have a lot of people employed. So I was thinking, how did nobody find Klein snooping around her house, right? Because it wasn't described that he was being sneaky to, to check out whatever Madame Sharon is doing or hiding or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, she dismissed her maidservants, and then she looked at her room and was like, something fishy is going on here. Because apparently she set up traps to, notify her if there's been someone snooping around her room, which Klein triggered. Like, it says that there were like thin threads all over her room, and I was thinking it's probably like spider webs, because she has a lot of spider motif in the donghua, so I'm thinking that. And also I was thinking, goddamn Klein, the one time you were supposed to be using your spirit vision and you didn't use it, because if he used it, I'm pretty sure he would have seen those spider web threads, right? So anyway, Klein went to Captain Dunes and was like, Captain Dunes, I have a very crazy stuff to report to you. And Captain Dunes is like, alright, what is it this time? And Klein's like, dude, I think that Madame Sharon is a member of the Demoness sect. And he's like, what? Why? What did you discover? You were out there for like an hour. What did you find out now, Klein? What the hell? Like, Captain Dunes, it's not written in the story, but I bet Captain Dunes is thinking, goddamn, why is this kid such a trouble magnet? Because again, apparently, remember, it was stated before that they don't really deal with that many Beyonder cases until Klein joined their forces. So I bet Captain is like, what is going on here? So Klein explains to Captain Dunes what he found about, like, the picture of Madame Sharon and the young man, and also the statue that he found of the Demoness sect, the primordial Demoness. But of course, he stated it as a question because Klein doesn't really know what the Demoness actually looks like, right? So he had to ask Captain Dunes, because apparently the visuals of, the evil gods and goddesses out there are strictly secret, and only higher ups can know about them. And he asked Captain Dunes if that was the case, and Captain Dunes was like, yeah, that is definitely the primordial Demoness. And Klein actually asked Captain if why is it that the 7 Orthodox gods, they only have symbols without any actual image, but the evil gods are, they have appearances, like people can visualize them as humans or something close to human. And Captain Dunes kind of confirmed that that is the case, but he didn't really elaborate much. And I was thinking, I feel like the reason that the evil gods are like that is because it's easier to tempt humans to side with you if you are like them, right? So that is my thought process, and it's harder to, it's kind of, I feel like it's harder to empathize or be in a parasocial relationship, let's just say it like that, with an inanimate object or, some sort of symbol, which is why the 7 Orthodox gods are mostly symbols instead of, an actual visual. That's at least what I'm thinking. And you know what? I think it was a good thing that Klein actually asked Captain Dunes about this, because he was thinking about the symbols that he will have as the Fool. And yeah, so anyway, they grabbed Kenley and also a sealed artifact, and then they went over to Madame Sharon's house to, smoke her out basically and capture her. And here's the thing, it was stated that the sealed artifact that they got is actually the mirror that, it's giving me the Ring vibes, with the Sadako thing, because apparently there's something that will crawl out of the mirror if you look at it, and you're not supposed to be looking at the mirror. And yeah, so that is the case. Once they were there, Klein actually did a divination and asked if there's danger inside, and he got a positive answer, meaning that Madame Sharon is still in the house and she has not fled yet, which is good because, they kind of want to capture her. But yeah. Anyway, that is it for this video. Before I leave, I would actually like to explain what I'm drawing right now. Basically, this is my main character. Well, not main character. He's the male lead of the webcomic I'm working on called Dreaming of Aurora. And he went through a lot of redesigns, not gonna lie. And this is his latest design. I wanted him to look a little bit more unique, a little bit more demonic, and a little less human. But yeah, I sure hope that you guys understood the perspective of this artwork, that he's like upside down with his hand on the ground. Because I showed this to some people and they're like, "What am I looking at, Faye?" And I was like, "Can't you see? Can't you see?" So so I hope it's kind of understandable. I am going to be editing this video some more in the future. I actually want to add Noah at the palm of his hand later on, because it just feels empty, and also I need to fix like the readability of the black and the contrast. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this illustration. Yeah, so outro time. What do you guys think of this episode? Before I go, please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment. It helps my channel out a lot. My commissions are open and my region link is down in the description below. Check out my story Dreaming of Aurora if you have the time. And finally, thanks to my patrons Robek, Vanarik, and J. Volchevalitska for the support. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!